This is the Yahoo Sports NBA Podcast, hosted by Chris Mannix. From interviews,
let's bring in John Wall.
He's Reggie Miller.
Bring in Eric Spoelstra.
To the latest NBA news, to insights you won't get anywhere else.
Rioting is bad. You shouldn't riot.
Past episodes of the podcast can be downloaded in the iTunes Store and Google Play.
Why wouldn't you go back?
Subscribe and leave a rating or comment. Here he is.
Speaking of guys putting their foot in the road,
Chris Mannix. Yes.
All right, my guest this week, recording from his office in Los Angeles, the home of the LA Times.
Well, it's a vacant office.
You can let me get to you first.
It's a vacant office.
I haven't introduced you yet.
I don't want to put it out there like, oh, I've got some new job and some new office.
Well, you do have a new job, Dan Woike from the LA Times. You are the newly minted national NBA writer, coming over from the old Charger beat after years on the Clipper beat before that.
I fought for LA and I lost, so now I've moved off the NFL.
Yes, but now you're the new national guy there. How do you feel about that?
I'm super excited. I think, even before, like the wheels for this were put in motion prior to LeBron coming, and I was excited about, sort of the direction of basketball in the city again. I thought the Lakers had a fun roster. I think the Clippers, like, going through this sort of like half rebuild, half not was interesting, and then like, the league's in such a good place. There's so many fun teams to talk about. Then, I think like a couple days after I agreed to do it, or they agreed to let me do it or whatever, LeBron happens, and then it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. So things are going to be a little different.
I mean, they're going to be good because you can be the national NBA guy and just write LeBron stories. You'd probably make your editors pretty happy.
Yeah, I think they'd enjoy that. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to have a lot of people writing a lot of LeBron stories.
You don't want to write about the Orlando Magic rebuild? You don't want to take a 4-day trip down to the Magic Kingdom to...
Oh, I hate going to Orlando. Like, it's not... Like, I tend to find the good in every city that we get to travel to. Like, we're lucky enough to get to do these things. Orlando is probably my least favorite travel into town because of you have to deal with the Disney people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, families. Like, how dare you have so many children and want to take them on a nice vacation and somehow get them all TSA pre-check. Like, that kid is not pre-check. He's trying to take his shoes off. It's like, dude, you're 6. Like, just go through the line. Like, why do you have so much metal on you? I
really thought this through.
Orlando. Terrible.
All right, you and I were both at Laker Media Day. A couple hundred people at the practice facility today.
Yeah.
As you would expect, national, local alike, everybody there to see LeBron James make his first public appearance as an LA Laker. He did the thing with Rachel Nichols over the summer when he opened up his school, but this was the first time everybody kind of got a crack at him. And let me just ask you first, your general takeaways from LeBron, because he was asked in about a 15-minute kind of Q&A session. He was asked about the decision to come to LA. He was asked about all the things he has going off the court. He was asked about Rajon Rondo. What was your takeaway from LeBron?
I mean, he didn't seem that thrilled to be there. It was very businesslike, very wasn't going out of his way to engage with anybody, wasn't trying to connect necessarily. And not that he needs to do these things. I mean, he's LeBron James. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows what he can do, but it seemed like kind of a necessary formality for him just to get through. And then, I think as the season goes on, obviously he'll get to know people better and there'll be a better relationship. But I think he looked weird in Lakers uniform. There's some adjustment to that. I mean, did you think Rondo looked stranger as a Boston person?
No, I mean, Rondo has been around a little bit.
He mentioned when he listed the teams that he was on, I had completely forgotten he was on the Sacramento Kings.
He led the NBA in assists that season.
Like, that one was like, oh, yeah, he was on the Kings. Like, I mean, I knew the Mavericks. I remember that briefly, too. But, yeah, so we've seen him look. I mean, it's still always a little jarring when you see kind of, a superstar wearing, like, kind of, something different. There wasn't the Miami Heat bravado, though, certainly. I think... To me, the biggest takeaway of everything he said was that success isn't measured by championships, which to me struck me as a very un-LeBron thing to do because, he's willed so many, sort of good, definitely flawed basketball teams to get to that championship level. To me, that not being a top priority, or not making it seem like it was a number one priority, that growth and patience and these things were important, seemed to me a little strange, but I guess you don't sign with the Lakers if you think you're walking in the door and gonna, compete with the Warriors, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he was asked specifically for this season, something along the lines of what your definition of success is, given this team is probably not going to win a championship. And I give LeBron credit for, not saying something ridiculous like we still believe we can win. We go out every day thinking we're going to win a championship.
30 teams think they're going to win championships.
That's absurd. And whoever asked, I think it was an international reporter that asked, how do you think you match up with Golden State? Like, come on. This is not what they're trying to do this year. I mean, down the line, absolutely. LeBron is still focused on catching Michael, on winning more championships. Sure. But he knows, and I give him credit because he knows what this team is. However you may see them, whether they're a top 4 seed, bottom 8 seed, out of the playoffs, whatever, they're not a championship team out there. So, Dan, I give him credit for just telling the truth. He's going to make headlines for what he said. The headline will be "Success not dependent on championship: James." Yeah. But it's a fact of life.
Were you a copy editor here? Are you going to take a night shift today?
I need another job, so I need.
You don't have enough of them.
I need another job.
No, I mean I think that's certainly part of it. But I mean it's also I think kind of hearing what we all assumed when he signed, which was like this is a multi-year plan, which is strange for somebody who has been so year in year out a force. I mean, he's defined a conference for a decade, pretty much. And to not envision him there at the end is going to be different. To envision him kind of taking more of this long read on the NBA and the Western Conference is certainly different. And I think it's going to take some getting used to, because hearing something like that is jarring, from him, because you're so used to, I mean, this is a guy that believed he could beat the greatest team in NBA history, those 70-plus win Warriors teams, and did it. Him and Kyrie Irving, they did it. And that took a lot of bravado, a lot of guts, a lot of self-belief. Obviously, he has tons of that. I mean, you said today, it's like, what defines pressure to him at this point? Nothing. But there is pressure here. There's pressure to win in LA. I mean, if you're gonna walk in the footsteps of Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, those levels of kind of icons in the city. Like, if he comes out of this without a title, I'll define it for him. It's hard to say that this run would be a success then. I mean, I feel like they have to win here once, and but it's just not all on him, obviously. They need to build a better roster, and they need to develop the guys that they have here.
Yeah, and they don't have that roster right now. We know the score. Most everyone has 1-year deals. This is a roster that they're going to try a bunch of things with. Luke Walton.
It's a bridge year for sure.
Yeah, Luke Walton said he wasn't wed to any rotations yet. He hasn't thought that much ahead. And it's clear that, these first days of training camp, they're going to learn a lot about what Luke Walton wants from this team in terms of style of play.
I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Like, they want to play fast. I mean, everybody says this, right? This is like when you're not good, you want to play fast. That's a general rule of thumb. But even in your media day, bingo cards that you have out, right? Like the coaches that say, we're gonna walk the ball up the court. We're going to use 7 to 8 seconds to get it. Nobody ever says it. Everybody wants to play with pace and with thrust. These are things that, these are the buzzwords. I don't know. Can podcast people see me rolling my eyes while I do this now?
Play with thrust? Is that a thing?
This was Rob Pelinka yesterday. They want to play with, or earlier this week, they want to play with thrust.
That's the first time I've heard somebody say they want to play with thrust.
That's a thing. I've heard that. That's a football thing too.
Okay, maybe
it's like pace pace times force equals thrust.
So football, basketball, and porn, basically. Is what
looking over my shoulders, not for my boss. I'm not going to be able to have internet privileges here anymore if you say that way.
Let me say this though. One thing that needs to be dispelled and talked about is the whole off the court juggling everything distraction for LeBron James. People need to understand that LeBron James is not doing Space Jam 2 because he's a Laker. LeBron James doesn't have The Shop because he's a Laker. LeBron James doesn't have the new series Shut Up and Dribble on Showtime because he's a Laker. His people, Maverick Carter and his Spring Hill Entertainment Group, have been pitching this stuff for months and years. This is all a long time in the making. Now, Dan, there may be stuff down the line that comes from LA.
That's what I was just going to say, is that, I think this isn't the crest of the wave, right?
But it's not like he's out there looking at raw footage and editing.
I think we have to do, right? You hire people to do this stuff for you. Right? You want to put your fingerprints on it, I suppose, to a certain extent. I don't know. I haven't produced many films. It is not something that's not on my resume.
The Woike Chronicles.
Yeah, right.
Running Zoom to YouTube.
Speaking of thrust, I think it's to me. I think it's obviously it's a piece in the overall puzzle as to why he's here. I do think so. I think there's no question that everything being the same. if Hollywood was located in rural Montana, you know what I mean? I don't think that'd be I don't think he'd be playing for like the Bozeman, whoever, or I can't think of any other cities in Montana. I've pissed off Florida and Montana already.
Seriously.
I'm really taking this national thing to heart. But I do think obviously it's part of LA. It's part of the charm here. It's part of the appeal. And he's going to take advantage of it. I think he's certainly someone who's shown the savvy to when presented with opportunities to take advantage of them and use them to either push social agendas or to position himself for things down the line. Like he's been smart about that. And I think the fact that he's a Laker, I think it just allows the momentum from these other things to build, right? Like, and I do think that's how it impacts sort of, the fact that in the last few weeks we've had he's had a bunch of shows ordered and stuff like that. I think it's like up to 10 projects or something right now, like under the Spring Hill umbrella. And like, you're right. He's not writing scripts for all of these. He's not sitting there, like you said, looking at raw footage or holding the clapboard or any of that stuff. Like he's a basketball player. And especially this first year in LA, it's going to be very basketball oriented, I think. But we were talking about this at lunch. There is something to being famous in LA. Like it's just this like inception level of fame, right? Like where when you're famous among the most famous, and this happens in New York too, to a certain extent. Like I think it does open doors that wouldn't be open to him if he was in Cleveland. Like the fact that he's here every night, the fact that, he can roll out of bed and meet with the most powerful people in Hollywood. It's going to allow him to do more different things. And I think at a certain point, like, is there a breaking point where it's too much? Possibly. I mean, I think it's possible, but I have a hard time, believing just as much as I have a hard time believing that he doesn't think championships are a level of success, that he would let things get in the way of basketball. To me, this felt more like family and lifestyle than it did, basketball necessarily or entertainment. It felt like it's just a great place to live, and there's a lot of reasons to live here.
All right, let's drill down on a couple of things that LeBron will have to deal with on the court. Besides James and how he fits into LA and all that stuff, the most interesting subplot with the Lakers to me is the point guard position, because you've got Lonzo Ball, the incumbent, coming off a credible rookie season. As much buffoonery is around Lonzo. I mean, 35 minutes a game and 52 games last year. He was pretty good. He's clearly not the player Jason Tatum is, who he's going to be compared to, but he's
or Donovan Mitchell.
Or Donovan Mitchell. But look, he's not a bust. He's certainly not a bust.
No.
But they have Lonzo, and they go out and they bring in Rajon Rondo. Rajon Rondo, who since his rookie year has started all but 2 games in the NBA. Both these guys, Dan, said the right things at Media Day. But one thing I find interesting about Rondo, when I asked him straight out, I said, Rondo, like I'm his best friend. I said, Rajon, when you're, Is
Rondo the shorthand? Is that what his best friends call him?
I think they probably do. Yeah, it's Rondo. Yeah, Paul Pierce calls him Rondo.
Not like Ray-Ro or something like that? Or?
Never heard that before in my life. Okay. But you say, Rajon, you have started all these games. You are coming off a brilliant postseason with New Orleans. If you're not a starter, I mean, how important is starting to you? And look, one thing he did say was, maybe I'll start 15 games, sit 8. I'm not sure how that's going to work because, with New Orleans, you could play Rondo and Jrue Holiday together. Here, I don't see any scenario where you can play, or too many scenarios where you're playing Rondo and Lonzo together.
Well, and two, and I think the start 15, sit 8, too, is probably a little optimistic because they invested all of 1 year in Rajon Rondo, and they have a lot more invested, obviously, in Lonzo Ball. And I do think that this is it's a short-term marriage, right? Like, this is like that college relationship that is going to end badly at some point, but you want to get the most out of it, right? While it's there, while it lasts. And I think I'm with you. I'm a Lonzo Ball fan. I think his rookie season is because so many other rookies did incredible stuff. I think he lived up to some expectations in the sense that I'm a fan of players who are elite at things, right? Like who have the boxes they check and say this is something. And we know Lonzo Ball is an elite rebounder. And that is going to, as a guard, he's as good as anybody, and that's going to be something I think as he gets bigger and stronger, only going to be better at. And I think we feel the same way about him as a passer, too. He's a really selfless player. And those two things, I think, make teams better. And I think pair actually really well with LeBron James, as a guy who can, if LeBron doesn't want to run, Lonzo will. But, you also kind of worry about his growth and how much floor time is he going to see. Because to me, I think when you have LeBron James, this is going to be interesting for Luke Walton, the Lakers all year. On one hand, they've had this sort of push, like they're developing players. This is a long-term view.